All right, let us go ahead on and get started with prayer. And we pray in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praises are due to Allah, Lord of the world, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of this day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve. Thee alone do we beseech for help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path you have bestowed favors, not of those whom your wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray. Ameen.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Sure. Okay, we're gonna go. We're dealing with auditing. Still dealing with auditing. And okay. I think we were the last one we were on was 6, right?
Correct.
Okay. Number 6, directing the PC's attention on his own case and directing his ability to talk to the auditor. And so that's what one of the definitions of being in session is when you're talking to the auditor. If you ain't talking to the auditor, you're not really in session. And so and then you got these elements directing the PC's attention. And so that's one of the things that we're going to get into as we explore the meeting. And I'm trying to think, like I said, it just depends on how we want to deal with this thing, with this meeting. A second. I'm in the session, brother. I'll call you back in about an hour. All right. Listen. Because I think that's gonna be something that we can do at a certain point in time, especially if we can get there's a few meters that we can get that we can kind of knock down a lot of the aberration, but we really ultimately don't really need a meter. The meter is good because we can attack some of these big clunks of aberration without the meter. But one thing the meter does do is it allows you to measure your progress, within a session, and it helps you to see if you are really getting wins. Okay, so that's one of the things that the meter does. It helps you to direct the PC's attention. So if I read a list of words off to you, and you holding the cans, and then when you get a reaction on that meter, then the meter is telling you then what you need to spend time auditing on. See, and then you go to that particular thing, that particular issue or whatever, and then when that becomes flat, then you go to the next hot button, so to speak. So it's directing the PC attention on his own case and directing his ability to talk. So all of these things here are they're a little bit more advanced concepts, and you have to kind of get into the practice of auditing more to be able to do that. But that's one of the things that an auditor does. So we go to definition number 7. The reversing of other determined flows by gradient scales putting the PC at cause again. And so here we go with what's the other determined flows. Anybody know? Can anybody tell me what a other determined flow is? Well, it's a flow of energy that is determined by something or someone other than the PC. See, so let me write this page number down here so I can get right back to it. We're on page number 21. So let's go to other determined. So you got self-determinism, you got pan-determinism, other determinism. We're gonna go see if we can go to other determinism and see what that says. Okay, so it says other determination, or other determinism is simply something else giving you orders or directions. Something has so thoroughly overwhelmed the PC that he is it. So these are concepts that if we study them and understand these concepts, it gives us a picture of certain aspects or certain scenarios in the mind. You know what I mean? And that's what an auditor does. An auditor deals with different scenarios. If he understands that someone has been so dominated in their lives that they don't even reflect themselves. They reflect others. And here's something that's related right up above it. It's called other determined reality. Okay. Someone has given him a facsimile and has really impressed him with it. So this looks more real to him than reality. And we have to be careful of that particular thing. Let's see. All right, back to auditing. Yeah. All right. Any questions on that so far? So this is the reversing of other determined flows by gradient scale. And then so sometimes you got in handbook for pre-clears, for example, they give you the scale, what was the scale of ARC, and then they talk about things like forced affinity, forced reality, forced communication. All right, and these things are other, these are other determined flows. Someone is flowing their facsimiles or reality into you. And so auditing helps to reverse these other determined flows by gradient scales, putting the PC at cause again. Because see, if you are operating on a other determined flow, then you are really the effect of someone else. And so by auditing these flows out, and that's kind of what is happening in Handbook for Pre-Clears. And that I think it's the first or the second act, because they ask you who, name some people in your life that have forced affinity on you, have forced communication on you, have forced reality on you. And so auditing helps to uh, put you back at cause. Because see, if you've had something forced on you, then you are not at cause. It's the person that's been forcing you, that's at cause. And see, this is one thing that we have to understand about our nature, which is a very basic thing, is that, well, see, you are God. You are a God. And a God is basically cause. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad defined it as force and power. But what is force and power if it's not cause? You see, you just whittle it down a little bit more, because you start talking about cause. Well, then, average person ain't gonna really see it from that broken down point. Sometimes it can be so fundamental that the person can't really even comprehend it. Uh, so it's the reversing of other determined flows by gradient scales and putting the PC at cause. Again, he's not effect. All right, any questions? Okay. Number 8, auditing. A communicating process, or a communication process with the end goal of raising the ability of another person so that he can handle his bank, body, others, and environment in general. Now that sounds pretty neat. Huh?
I like that one.
Yeah. That's pretty cool stuff. We ought to come up with us a definition of what's cool. I say all my STW family. That's the definition of cool people. I think about it, man. I would just love to be able to just hang out with you guys, man. That would be some really cool stuff, because of the level that we are that we relate on. The level of our ARC is something to behold. So it's a communicating process, or a communication process with the end goal of raising the ability of another person so that he can handle his bank, body, others, and environment in general. So you can handle your bank. So, when you become aware of your bank. This is one of the things that we're going to be doing and employing in our course. Our course, we're going to be learning how to handle our bank, handle our body, and even handle others. Not so much control others, but handle others. Sometimes when people get on your nerves, you learn how to handle folks. And this is one of the things that we learn even in the TRs. See, we want to learn the TRs because the TRs are just so fundamental, they're so rooted in the fundamentals. And as I was saying this morning, you start off with the TRs, but even when you get to the highest levels of Scientology that they have to offer right now, you know what you're still dealing with? You're still dealing with TRs. You're still dealing with be there, and OT, and the operating theta. His game, or his his goal is just what you were saying, Sister Jacqueline, is to be in present time. See, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be in present time, trying to stay in present time. Go ahead, Sister Tina.
Okay, when you said bank, is that memory bank?
Yes.
Handle your banks, your memory bank.
Okay.
And when you said about the TRs, is that the same as training patterns?
Training routines.
Okay, I know. Okay, is that the same? The training routines, is that the same as the training patterns that is talking about in book 1?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
If
I
you
was
got
wondering
if you have a page number.
Okay, yes, sir.
Then I can tell you.
Yes, sir. I'm going to pull that up right now.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I can find
Number. Oh boy.
a bank. Now, what he's saying here is that if you look into your Scientology words to clear, see a lot of these words, we go with our word families to be able to cross-reference words. When we're able to cross-reference words, we expand the range of our mind, the reach of our minds. So when we say handle his bank, we're really talking about the memory bank, which is the reactive mind. When you're talking about your bank, you're generally talking about your reactive mind. And I like the way that Brother Lukeman had characterized it a while back. He was talking about your standard banks. And then so he said bank, if you look on your Scientology words to clear, is a colloquial name for reactive mind. And so I would tell you also that you could use, if you look at that term, colloquial, COLLOQUIAL, colloquial nomenclature and vernacular. All of these are word families. They have the similar words. They are words that have reality. I have their agreement, and there is an agreement of concepts. There is a similarity.
You say them again? You said colloquial nomenclature and who?
Vernacular.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Brother Bettine?
Yes.
What I was asking you about the training units, and is that the same as the training patterns? It's on page 60, the last paragraph going up into the first, going up into page 61. It says, in order to keep it and its circuits, talking about the analytical mind, free of bric-a-brac. If somebody else can find that and read it, because it'll take me a long time to read it.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Because it made me think about that when I was reading it yesterday. I said, I wonder if that's the training routines Brother Bettine's been talking about.
I'm thinking not, because
Okay.
that was because I'm looking at the time. I mean the book 1. I don't think the training routines were even a thing at that time.
Okay.
But we're gonna see. Scientology books. Genetics, a modern science of mental health. And we're looking for page 60, correct?
Sure. Last paragraph.
Is that starting with none or starting with in order to?
In order to.
Okay. You want me to put it in the chat? Or you got it?
You can anyway. In order to keep it and its circuits free of bric-a-brac and minor activities, the analytical mind is provided with a learned training pattern regulating. I think this is relating to the sort of the machinery, if you would, Brother Wadu, the machinery of the mind, some of the automatic functions of the mind. The analytical mind is provided with a learned training pattern regulator. So into this, by education, it can place the stimulus response patterns necessary for the performance tasks like talking, walking, piano playing, etc. These learned patterns are not interchangeable because they are selected by the analytical mind after thought and effort. There is seldom any need to change them. If new situations arrive, a new pattern is trained into the muscle. Yeah, these are a little different. It almost makes me think of this somatic mind. But of course, we know that we're talking about the analytical mind and the standard memory banks. So they're simply training patterns which the organism can use without attention of any magnitude from the analyzer. So you just basically, and I guess you could say that these they may be the basis for training routine. And it says an uncountable number of such patterns can be laid into the organism by this method. They are not the source of any trouble since they filed by time and situation, and very little thought would serve to annul old ones in favor of new ones. So, and I guess I can relate to the thing about the piano playing, because that's what you do in stuff like piano playing. You study, do re mi fa sol la ti do ti la so fa mi re do, and so you got you develop these patterns which that sort of play into how you pronounce that, automaticity, of the mind. So these are not the training routines, Sister Tina. They're not but they are somewhat related on a certain level. They serve some of the same purposes. But going back to what we were saying, a bank is a colloquial name for the reactive mind, the mental image picture collection of a PC. It comes from computer technology where all data is in a bank. All right? So it is a communicating process or a communication process with the end goal of raising the ability of another person so that he can handle his bank. He can handle his reactive mind. with a reactive mind where you're not reacting so much because you're on top of it. And little did I know, even as a 19-year-old, and I was really studying a lot of this stuff at 19 years old. And part of that is what led me to accept Islam. You know, we had this thing about being on top of it. And I didn't realize what the reactive mind was, exactly what it was then, but that's what I was referring to, was the reactive mind. And also, seems like that would be correct, Sister Ania. The timetable would be yeah, I think so. I think so. I think that's an excellent it's an excellent example as far as my understanding takes me, because like when they say piano playing, see, piano playing is a lot different from some other instruments like the guitar. With the guitar, I can play a scale, you know, da 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 dee dee dee, and then if I want to play the next half step up, da 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 dee dee, da 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 dee dee dee. All right, so that's those are I'm gradually going up, but the only thing I have to do is I can learn one scale, and then I just move my hand up one fret on the guitar, and then I get another scale. Whereas on the piano, each scale is going to be different. It's not, you got to learn different scale. You got different patterns for each scale. So, and then the same thing with the timetables. You learn, you know, when you learn your timetable, and there's no real set pattern, at least directly. You know, when you're looking at the timetables directly, you can't really. There's no real set pattern, sort of like on a piano. So I agree with you on that. I think that was Sister Ania that said that. I believe so. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say also too, Sister Ania and everybody, and this is since you bring that up, the timetable, is that this is what I believe we will be confronting as helpers to Allah in the new world. We're going to have to learn this tone scale in a similar sort of way. It doesn't just flow into place, you know what I mean? There's a certain amount of kind of flow, reality flow of the tone scale, but I think that in order to really serve our people effectively going into the new world, if we learn this tone scale by heart, if we learn it by heart, well, then first of all, you're going to help yourself with your own case, or you put yourself in a position to potentially help yourself with your own case. Because when you begin to understand all of the different gradients of emotion, then you can see yourself when you slip into a certain mode or a certain mood, you know, you can, if you know it and you know what the tone scale position of the next one or two, you can kind of you can gradually bring yourself out of it. You find yourself in fear of something, you know, then you know the next step up is it's anxiety. Then the next step up is covert hostility. All of these things can be used in the scenario of a more thorough knowledge of self. And then once you get to a thorough knowledge of self, then of course you have a better the more knowledge you have of self, the better control that you have of self. So you got knowledge, control, and then you have more responsibility in that same sentence. Go ahead, dear Sister Denise.
Yes, sir. As you were saying, to be able to master the scale, I thought about Malcolm saying he saw himself falling, and I said I can see where the tone scale will help you from falling, below where you almost at death, or when things are happening to you, knowing where you are, so you can bring yourself up from that. Yes, sir. That's all I wanted to say. That's what I
Beautiful,
was thinking
beautiful,
about,
beautiful. That's right. That's right.
because we're gonna, to see yourself falling and to be able to come back from that quickly, because oh, whoa, where am I at? On this scale. Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So knowing the scale and being able to determine where you are on the scale is definitely handy stuff to have, because like I say, if you start off by understanding, well, everything below 2.0 is mixed emotion. Everything that is above 2.0 is pointed towards survival. So if you find yourself on one of those levels that are lower than 2.0, then you need to get that, you have slipped and you have turned down the wrong street somewhere. You in the you at the wrong address. That's not the address of a righteous person, of a person that wants to follow, the leadership and the guidance of Almighty God, Allah. Sister Ani, is your hand up?
Yes, sir, it is.
Go
A
ahead,
question.
sis.
Yes, sir, a question. When we read in the instructions given to the laborers that each student should copy the answers of lessons of Minister Elijah Muhammad and study until the student is able to memorize by heart all answers to of said lesson number 1, would that fall more into a training pattern or the TR?
I think the pattern. I think the pattern. Yeah.
Okay.
I would, yeah. I would think that would go more into the pattern than the routine. I think the routine may be a little bit more fundamental. Yeah, I say that, and I say that from the sense of it's more of a stripped down action with the answers to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's ministry. Those are things that, to me, they have more similarity to like learning timetables and scales and stuff like that. So the simple answer would be yes. Yeah, that would be my opinion. Sister Tina?
Yes, sir. So what you just said when Sister Denise said what she said about the tone scale, so that learning, because you told us before, you suggested before we learn that tone scale. So by learning the tone scale, that's a training pattern, a learned training pattern as well, right? Is that what you were saying?
I wasn't really saying that. I guess you could fit that into what into the principle here. One thing, as I was saying, if you're trying to raise the ability of another person so that he can handle his bank, body, others, environment in general, you're talking about it's a communicating process or communicating communication process with the end goal of raising the ability of a person to communicate, or raising the ability so that he can handle his bank, body, others, and the environment in general. That sounds like bringing somebody up on the tone scale. If you bring somebody up on the tone scale, then the higher up you are on the tone scale, the better you are able to handle your bank, others, the environment in general. Is when your tone scale position gets down below 2.0, that's when it becomes more difficult to handle these particular things.
Yes, sir. The reason I'm asking that is because it makes sense to me that it would be advantageous to learn the tone scale, like learning the timetables, like learning the scales, because it says here, in order to keep it, talking about the analytical mind and its circuits free of bric-a-brac. That's crap, right? And minor activities, the analytical mind is provided with a learned training pattern, regulated. There you go. So the tone scale is a regulator, like Sister Denise was putting it, right?
No, it's not a regulator. It's a description.
A description of how to regulate?
No, it's just the tone scale is a description of it's an index of emotion.
So we can know.
But that's interesting that you said like that. So that's one thing that we want to begin to be aware, as aware as possible, is that when we say this is that, we definitely want to be able to differentiate between what is the tone. See, what is the tone scale? The tone scale is a mathematical index that describes an emotion. All right. So it's not a pattern. The tone scale is not a pattern. It is an index of emotion. Okay. Learn the training pattern is something that we learn to, I guess, to regulate the analytical mind to receive data and file that data in a certain way. So I'm just saying, so you wouldn't say that the tone scale is a regulator, that the level that you are on the tone scale, well, I guess you could say in other words, the tone scale is an emotion. The emotion regulates. It regulates the effort. Is any of that making sense?
Yes, sir. I just had a cognition, an aha moment. Yes, sir. Because that goes back to thought, emotion, effort.
And effort, right.
It says that emotion regulates the effort.
That's right.
Right. So if we learn where we are on the tone scale, dealing with our emotions, we'll
see how the effort is being regulated.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everybody else tracking with me then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. All right. So since we on it, I just really want to be thorough, as thorough as possible with this monumental word called auditing. And we're on page 21. So it's a communicating process. So when you start talking about a communicating process, you're talking about, well, what is communication? Communicate. Can somebody tell me what communication is?
Communication is the between two terminals, the exchange between two terminals.
All right. All right. That's the real basic. That's the basic definition. And that's a good definition in this context as well. All right. However, what we want to do, let's just go to the definition in the technical dictionary and just read it. Y'all bear with me 1 second here. Because that's some deep stuff, man. You realize what communication, he said, Mr. Hubbard says that communication, you can get clear just on communication. Because he might have been talking about white folks, though. A lot of that stuff work with black folks, but with white folks. But see, man, we have been so, our problems have been so compacted and concentrated. A lot of stuff that worked for them and don't necessarily work for us. Okay, communication auditing is a communication process. And so this is one of the things that if you are auditing, you want to have good communication with your auditor, which ultimately means that it is desirable that you have good ARC with the auditor. Okay. You have good affinity, good reality, good communication. Communication is the consideration and action of impelling an impulse or particle from source point across a distance to receipt point with the intention of bringing into being at the receipt point a duplication and understanding of that which emanated from the source point. Now that's kind of a long definition, but it's relatively clear for a long definition. Don't you think that sounded pretty neat? That's a pretty cool definition, I would say. The consideration and action of impelling, impelling like a propel, impel, propel, yourself, impelling an impulse or particle from source point, which is source point, one terminal, across a distance to receipt point. So in other words, you're trying to communicate with something or somebody. So you are in one place, and the other terminal is in another place. So since you're in different places, then you may not be able to understand everything what's going on in the other place. So communication, you impel an impulse or particle, that could be an idea, electrical signal, a radio signal, from source point across the distance, whatever distance you are apart from this thing you're trying to communicate with, to receipt point. The receipt point would be the point of the other terminal, with the intention of bringing into being. See, you're trying to bring this person or bring this terminal into being that's at the other terminal, a duplication and understanding of that which emanated from the source point. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these definitions, but I think that's good context for what we're trying to do. So auditing is you're trying to communicate. You're trying to communicate with your PC in such a way that, well, then you right there, so your communication with this particular person, it affects your proximity now, your tolerance, the proximity and your agreements. So you're looking for agreement. Your agreement is that means that you're on the same page. Go ahead, Sister Tina.
I actually didn't have my hand up, but I'm just and in awe that I'm understanding this. Yes, sir. But I gotta take my hand down.
Awesome. Awesome. All praise is due to Allah. Good. And isn't it beautiful, though? This is just beautiful. Okay. Because see, even if you don't, you can get it now. And then when you think about it, when you get into another situation later, and then when you reflect on it, you reflect on this reality that comes about, when you understand what communication, what happens. See, we're talking about the mechanics, the mechanism of communication. See, and it's easy to start talking about, we just got bad communication, and which, could be true. But when you understand communication and you understand the different aspects of communication, it puts you in a position where you can sometimes diagnose whatever shortcomings that may become apparent in the process of communication. So it's a communicating process or communication process with the end goal, basically, of raising the tone scale. And you'll find that actual definition in Science of Survival, where it says that auditing, that the end product of auditing is generally to bring the PC up on the tone scale. And when you begin to study the tone scale, especially in the book Self-Analysis, it gives you some questions to answer. If you ever been through that book, it gives you questions, and then you answer these questions. And at the end of the questionnaire, it gives you a formula by which, based on accurate and honest answers to these questions, you can compute what your chronic tone scale level is. That means that's your average tone scale level. That means that if I run into you randomly on Thursday afternoon at 6:35, that your tone scale level would probably be, 3.0 or whatever number you came up with. And also your chronic or your average tone scale level is, it determines to a degree what your resilience is to a problem that you may encounter. You encounter a certain problem, and if you have a chronic tone scale position of say 3.1, and then something happens, Mr. Hubbard talks about you have this thing called an emotional curve. He said an emotional curve is anytime you are on a tone level above 2.0 and something happens to take you down below 2.0. So when you go down to 2.0, well, then your chronic tone level is pulling you back up. You see? And so and that's one of the things that, just as you was just saying, Sister Tina, you know, when you're saying that you are getting this, and all of that stuff is contributing to a higher chronic or average tone scale. So when we get these sessions generally pull us up on the tone scale, thereby raising our average. It's just like you're in a college class or some academic class, and then you've got a 87 average, and then you go and you make a 97 on your test. Well, then that's pulling your average up. See, because you get that spike with the 97, but that spike is then calculated into your 87 average, and it may bring your average up a few points. And the average is your average ability to handle your bank, your body, others, and environment in general. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. And then we're going to go, we'll try to tackle this 9. Auditing is the process of bringing a balance between freedom and barriers. Auditing is a game of exteriorization versus havingness. I know we're gonna have to take that last one up probably Thursday, but we'll go the process of bringing a balance between freedom and barriers. Okay, so let's just look at freedom right quick, because that's what the Scientologists, they always talking about this, the bridge, the total freedom is what they call it. Freedom. Now this is deep. And then in the Islam, we talk about, if you're talking about Islam is free and love is freedom, justice, and equality. Look at what it says about freedom. Freedom is the ability to create and position energy or matter in time and space. Ooh. You got freedom then, so look like to me, when you got freedom, you are more at cause. You are more of a cause factor. Number 2, the absence of barriers. 3, ions of space and ability to use it. 4, oh my goodness. Somebody want to read 4? You got it, Sister Jacqueline?
Yes, sir. The component parts of freedom. as we first gaze upon it are then affinity, reality, and communication, which summates into understanding. Once understanding is attained, freedom is obtained.
Yeah.
What did you say, Sister Philippa?
I said, takbir.
Allahu Akbar. Because in the Bible it says, of all of your getting, get understanding. And we're taught by in Islam that Islam is freedom, justice, and equality. The ability to create and position energy or matter in time and space. And that's what we were talking about. Some of our brothers and sisters in the nation, how they don't want to give you freedom. You don't get, we join the Nation of Islam for freedom, but a lot of time our freedom is stifled. Go ahead, Sister Tina.
Yes, sir. That reminded me of something you said some months ago. It might have been a year ago, but you were talking about like if a person has a question and it's like they're locked up, they're in jail until that question is answered, and they understand. Once they get understanding, then they're free. You remember that? I'm paraphrasing.
So like I said, sometimes I don't. People say, well, what is that? What did you say? And I say, I don't know. It probably wasn't me that said it.
No, it was you, because I remember that. That's why questions are good to ask,
Right.
because we're locked up. We're like in jail until we get an answer, until we get understanding to that question. And that's how I was yesterday. When I called you and I couldn't get you, I had to actually dump that question out of my head because it was hard for me to concentrate on my studies with that question not being answered in regards to the somatic, being effort. So, but I was able to dump it out, and then I gained more freedom today when it was answered.
Yes, man. Yeah. Well, like I say, it's you start looking at barriers, and then when you start looking at this thing that we call games, man, that's just a whole different thing. But obviously, we're gonna take this part up a little on Thursday. We're gonna finish taking this aspect of it up. Brother Montgomery, go ahead, big brother.
Yes, sir. I apologize for coming on a little late, but were we still on the word auditing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And for next
Yeah.
week, could you chew on this until next week? Our next word clearing. Could you take the word that most of us are familiar with, auditing, when it comes to taxes, and kind of compare these two to help me better understand from a Scientology point of view? Because I do understand what happens when you get audited.
Yeah, and we have actually been using that particular definition to enhance our understanding of auditing.
Yes, sir.
Because when you get audited, what do they tell you to do? Show me your finances. Show me your input. Show me your output. Show me your income. Show me your outgo of funds. And so with auditing, that's what we do. When you get audited, that's what you're doing. You're putting certain things that came in vis-a-vis incidents. It may be painful incidents or certain types or categories of incident where these particular things happen. And then the outgo could be your effort. The input could be, the output. In other words, the outgo could be, what you did as a result of what came in. And so, I think it's a very good correlation between say an IRS audit and a IRS or an NOI audit or a COS, meaning Church of Scientology audit. And it's just simple. You know, I don't want to dress it up, you know, because sometimes you start dressing it up. That's what happened with me. You know, y'all forgive me, but I love burgers. And I get to the point where I just like I growing up, my mother, she was a sandwich master. You know, she put lettuce, tomato, pickles, onions, everything on it. And I learned how to make my burgers like that. But, you know, in my older age, I'm beginning to appreciate just the bun, the meat, and maybe a little sauce here, you know. And so we want to make sure that our definitions and our clearing of these words, that we want to clear it in the simplest possible way. In order to, and when we clear it in the simplest possible way, you sort of open up your palate to be able to experience the word in its fullest, and in its fullest sense. So now you back to the definition of Scientology, knowing in the fullest sense of the word, you know. So yes, sir. And that's basically what it is, brother Montgomery. So you can kind of marinate on it. That's what it is. It's just like this audit is just like an IRS audit. And it's probably, the IRS was probably not as notorious back in 1950 when he introduced Dianetics as it has been of late, with, you know, the filing of taxes and auditing and so forth and so on like that. But that is a good analogy, and it's actually one that we have used. If you get some of these previous auditing word clearing sessions, you will hear the use of auditing in that particular sense.
Yes, sir. That helps.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. All right. Well, that's good. So it's 2:03, and I thank you all for this. I mean, I tell you, man, I don't know whether it's just because of my upbringing or what, but I just get to the point. I just love knowledge, just love learning, and I feel like learning is something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we, as Black people, we need to learn, because we need to be taught everything. So if we need to be taught everything, that means we need to learn everything, you know. And of course, we are the cornerstone of a whole new civilization Allah is bringing us up into. So thank each and every one of you. We're going to continue, and we're going to deal a little bit more with freedom the next time, and how it relates to auditing, and how auditing frees you up. And especially since auditing is Islam. In Islam, we have the freedom, justice, and equality. So we're going to cut the session off now. Thank you so much, man. I just know that I'm blessed. I'll be hanging out with the coolest people on the planet. People that learn and love to learn and have a smile on their face and get excited you know, we get excited with knowledge. You know, I remember back early in the days of the minister, I believe we were in Sarasota, Florida, and it was around 1980, if I'm not mistaken. We were in Sarasota, Florida, and the minister had got through speaking, and then at the end of the day, and then we was in the lobby of the venue duplicating the tapes from the minister, and a fight almost broke out over the tapes of the minister. I said, boy, you know, this is a new day when Negroes start fighting over knowledge. And so I don't want to get into no fight with you, but I'm certainly happy to be among, you know, brothers and sisters who are excited about knowledge and about learning, because Allah is going to reward you. He's rewarding you right now. You are going to be rewarded, brothers and sisters, because this is part of our obedience to Allah. Notwithstanding, you know, the fact that it's just part of our nature, but that's one of the valid therapies is education. So may Allah bless each and every one of you, and inshallah, we will see you back on Thursday morning with STW, and of course our word clearing on Thursday afternoon. So may Allah bless you, and we will close this meeting out now with prayer. Attention, prayer. And we pray. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praises are due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of this day of judgment in which we now live. To thee alone do we serve, and to thee alone do we beseech for aid. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path you have bestowed favors upon, and not of those whom your wrath has been brought down, nor of those who go astray after hearing thy teachings. Ameen. Okay, brothers and sisters, go in peace. And as I was saying, feel free to give us a buzz if we can help out with any understanding or anything that we got. And I ask you again for your prayers. And may Allah bless you. I love you all. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam, sir.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.